This is what people think you need to eat to get shredded. In reality, all you need is to be in a calorie deficit. Over the last 7 years, I have gone through multiple bulks and cuts. This has been the most effective and efficient way for me to consistently build muscle and get leaner year on year. Over the last 2 years, I've been focusing on building as much muscle as possible, as it takes time to build quality muscle naturally. This is my physique at peak bulk. My goal this year is to get into my best ever condition for my first natural bodybuilding show. Now that summer is around the corner, you can apply these steps to get as shredded as ever. This is Shredding Simplified. Shredding Simplified is broken down to 3 key components. Number 1, nutrition. 2, training. 3, recovery. Firstly, nutrition. The ideology that nutrition is 80% and training is 20% has been a while in this industry, but in reality, a combination of both is important, and they both come hand in hand. If you just focus on nutrition and you don't weight train, you can get shredded, but just tracking your nutrition without weight training, you might fall in the zone of skinny fat. But in this section, I'll only be covering the fundamentals of nutrition and what you need to do to essentially get as shredded as possible. Shredding Simplified, the main goal is to essentially help you and get you into the best shape possible or your most shredded state possible by this summer in a very simple and set out manner. When it comes to nutrition, the key aspect of losing fat comes down to being in a calorie deficit. What this essentially means is you got to expend more energy than the energy you're consuming. So in layman's term, to burn more calories than what you're actually consuming. So ultimately, it comes down to calories in versus calories out. However, the key to getting from lean to shredded is being in a calorie deficit for a longer period of time. So if you want to break this down, we are currently in May. This genuinely depends on your body fat percentage and what your current set point is right now. But for most individuals, if you can give yourself approximately 25 to 30 weeks of being in a slight calorie deficit, you will be able to get into a state much leaner than you were 25 or 30 weeks ago. Starting the cut with a calorie deficit that is very large will, number 1, not make it sustainable. Number 2, potentially lose more muscle than you can potentially hold during a cut. And number 3, affect your metabolism. So my approach is to give yourself a long period of time, but to aim to lose approximately 0.5 kg to 1 kg per week, depending on the number of weeks you have in your cut and depending of which stage you are in your cut. The way how I like to approach fat loss and getting shredded is to find a sustainable caloric deficit, allowing you to be in that deficit for weeks on weeks, which is not too deep that you feel like you need to binge or to feel that it's not sustainable, but at the same time being able to also train hard, have enough food in your system so that you can retain as much muscle as possible or even potentially build a little bit of muscle during the cut. So now I'm gonna screen record my screen and show you how you can firstly track your TDEE, which is your total daily energy expenditure, and from there find your caloric deficit and sustain this caloric deficit for a period of time. This is just a general plan, so follow it, and although it isn't tailored to yourself, this is a great way to know from a basic standpoint on how you can start your cut. When it comes to identifying the amount of calories you should consume to get shredded, it's fundamental to understand your total daily energy expenditure, which is abbreviated as your TDEE. And if you'd like to understand what your TDEE is and you don't have a professional coach to guide you on the level of macronutrient that you need to be in a sustainable caloric deficit, a great starting point would be a TDEE calculator, which you can find online. For example, I've just googled one, tdecalculator.net. You put in your gender, your age, your weight, your height, and your activity levels and your body fat percentage. You click calculate and you can see here, for this stats, an individual would be consuming 1,986 calories would be the calories for this individual to maintain. So I'd recommend to start with this level and see how your body reacts each week. And if we can see here, we can use this as a starting point, and once, if your weight stalls for a week or 2 weeks, then you can slowly drop your macros, for example, by removing 25 to 50 grams of carbs or 5 to 15 grams of fats. And this is just an overview table of approximately an individual who'd like to get from around 70 or 69.5 kg and drop around 7.5 kg in the next 15 weeks. And then you'd be aiming to drop approximately 0.5 to 0.6 kg per week, which should be a sustainable level. Of course, fat loss and weight loss is never linear in a straight line, but if we can lose fat at a decent rate and stick to that goal, it's a great way to stay motivated and identify what your TDEE should be and what it can be to allow you to get this rate loss, this speed, or this way of losing fat at this pace. So this is how you can get started with your TDEE for Shredding Simplified. When it comes to getting shredded, there's also this belief that you have to just eat chicken, rice, and broccoli. Although there are some benefits to eating that over more processed foods, you do not necessarily have to only eat the same plain boring dish every single day. You can still lose fat being in a calorie deficit, so technically you can still eat processed food, pizza, McDonald's, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, and even potentially drink sugary drinks. But the advantage of eating more whole foods is that it allows you to have more volume, usually like the chicken, breast, rice, and broccoli, and that's why it allows you to make this cut more sustainable. My approach that I've taken over the last 7 years is to have more of a slightly more flexible dieting where I track my macros and I find foods, and particularly whole foods, that I enjoy, and it doesn't need to be a boring chicken, breast, broccoli, and rice, but there are still foods that you enjoy, and then you can stay in a slight caloric deficit over a longer period of time. So my favorite whole foods, firstly starting from a carb source, would be rice, noodles, pasta, oats, fruits, and for protein, chicken, pork, fish, prawns, and whey protein isolate. And for fats, avocado, peanut butter, almond butter, some sort of fish like salmon, and olive oil, and even eggs. Eggs is another key protein source that, although has slightly higher fats, is a good whole food to incorporate into your diet. So ultimately, yes, you can have processed foods, but at the same time, if you're only eating processed foods, number one, you're more likely wanting to have more sugar, to have even more processed food, so that you actually go slightly above, your caloric deficit and be in a slight surplus. And number two, some individuals are prone to hold slightly more water when they're eating processed food, and digestion isn't as good. So ultimately, do you need to be eating just whole foods? No, but will it be better for your health? Most likely, yes. So that sums the nutrition, or a high-level approach to how I look at nutrition in Shredding Simplified. A common question that gym rats get is, do you need to spend 3 hours a day in the gym? The answer is no. But do we enjoy spending 3 hours a day in the gym? Sometimes yes. To progress during a gaining phase or a cutting phase, I would say at a minimum 3 times per week of weight training is key. If you can get 4 to 5, that would be slightly more ideal, but at a bare minimum, you should be able to still progress if you're training hard 3 times a week. Ultimately, when it comes to training, it comes down to how hard you are training at the gym. And yes, of course, with training nowadays in 2024, there are loads of different approaches that you can take, but finding an approach that you enjoy, that you can be consistent, that allows you to progressively overload, and if you can train extremely hard, you will ultimately make good progress. During a cutting phase, I tend to be doing the same or very similar workouts to my gaining phase, as I'm a strong believer that whatever you've done to build good quality muscle is what you need to retain good muscle. And if you are able to find a split that works for you, a split that allows you to be consistent over a period of time, is fundamental to build a bit of muscle naturally or to retain as much muscle as possible during your shredding phase. And this is weight training for Shredding Simplified. One of the most underrated tools when it comes to fat loss is sleep. Your sleep is essential for your body to recover, for your body to absorb your key nutrients that you're having, and to recover from your heavy weightlifting session. So don't underestimate your sleep, because time and time again, we are all living a busy life with busy jobs, with a big social life. But if you can get your sleep on point, you will not only more likely retain more muscle, but you'll more likely have a lower cortisol level and you'll hold less water to give you that more dry and shredded look, especially near the end of your cut. The definition of a supplement from Oxford Dictionary is a thing that is added to something else to improve or enhance it. So when it comes to losing weight, getting shredded, or even building muscle, supplements can be used to enhance, to complete it. But do not think that taking supplements will allow you to essentially have or not track your macros, to eat less favorable foods, more processed foods, or even not training. Because if you just take supplements without actually tracking your macros and training hard, you will not get your results. So ultimately, a supplement just enhances and completes the overall progress. So when it comes to supplements, what do I take? I've got the usual health range here, which is vitamin C and vitamin D, both for health, and omega-3. And I've got a multivitamin, which is part of the Bulks Pro range. But the additional stuff that I take is here, Lion's Mane, which helps you with your focus, especially someone who has attention or some sort of ADHD. I think, since I was a kid, I've always found it hard to focus. Lion's Mane has helped me stay calm, stay focused, essentially like caffeine. It gives you the focus of caffeine without any sort of shaking or feeling slightly anxious. So it's good to take in the evening when you really want to focus and get some solid work done. Something like ashwagandha that helps you calm down, helps you with recovery. So I usually take that in the evening, or I take that post-workout after having tons of caffeine, which obviously ideally isn't great for you, but gives you a great session, which ultimately is my current goal now, to essentially train extremely hard. So yeah, I'm gonna take the supplements now. Thank you very much guys for watching video. I hope you enjoyed Shredding Simplified and my approach to getting shredded this summer. If you are looking for any high quality supplements, you can use my link below and code Brian45 for extra discount, and it'll help me with my journey. Have an amazing week and all the best for getting shredded this summer.